The laughter started just as he turned the corner. Malik, 26, thin jacket soaked from the rain, stood awkwardly at the reception desk of Broxton and Levy Advertising, holding a cardboard box labeled, "Client Samples, Fragile." He'd just spent 20 minutes navigating a freight entrance no one had bothered to label. "Seriously?" one of the suits near the coffee station said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Does DoorDash do furniture now?" The others chuckled. One sipped from a branded tumbler and leaned against the glass wall like he was in a stock photo titled, "Middle Management Confidence." Malik kept his eyes down. He'd been delivering packages all morning, some light, some backbreaking. This one was a weird mix of both. Client materials packed in glass. Fragile, like the way his back felt after 7 hours. He placed the box gently on the counter. The receptionist, a young woman named Kara, earbuds dangling, didn't look up from her screen. "Name?" Malik cleared his throat. "It's F, from Premier Courier. For Ethan Marks." She sighed. Loudly. Malik's stutter always showed up when he was tired. Or anxious. Or both. And right now, he was soaked to the skin and surrounded by people who looked like they'd never lifted anything heavier than a cold brew. "Do you have a badge or something?" Kara asked, typing as if the keyboard owed her money. I have the invoice." Another guy near the printer muttered, "God, does it take all day to drop a box?" Malik's cheeks burned. Then a voice spoke from near the elevators. Not loud, but clear. "Want to repeat that?" Heads turned. A man leaned against the elevator frame. Dark hoodie. Ball cap pulled low. Jeans and boots. Anonymous, until now. He stepped forward slowly. And removed his cap. One of the coffee guys blinked. "Wait, is that?" Keanu Reeves didn't answer. He just looked at the man by the printer and said, "You should treat people better than you think you'll need them." The printer guy froze. He glanced around as if waiting for someone else to explain this away. But no one spoke. Because now, everyone recognized him. Keanu Reeves. He stood with an ease that made the whole room uneasy, not aggressive, not theatrical. Just present. Grounded. Like someone who didn't need to raise his voice to raise the stakes. The receptionist, Kara, suddenly looked up from her screen. "Oh my God." Malik didn't move. He stared down at the invoice in his hand, unsure whether to disappear or pass out. Keanu turned toward him. "You all right?" he asked gently. Malik nodded, barely. "Why, yeah." Keanu looked back at the cluster of employees now frozen like mannequins in business casual. The man brought a package in the rain. "You brought sarcasm," Keanu said. "Guess which one the client actually needed." Nobody laughed now. The coffee station fell silent. The manager at the glass wall, who just an hour ago had delivered a passive-aggressive lecture about professional decorum to an intern, cleared his throat. "I think we were just joking." Keanu tilted his head slightly. "Did it sound like a joke?" The silence answered for him. Kara spoke up quickly. "Mr. Marks is on the 5th floor. I'll call up." Malik tried to speak, but Keanu put a gentle hand on the box. "I'll walk it up," he said. "You don't have to," Malik began. "I know," Keanu said. "Let's go." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. The two stepped inside. As the doors closed, Keanu looked at Malik and gave a small smile. They don't know how much weight people carry just to stand in front of them. Malik didn't answer, but something in his chest eased. On the 5th floor, the carpet was thicker. The voices were quieter. The walls had framed posters with award logos and inspirational phrases about disruption. Keanu walked alongside Malik, carrying the box like it was sacred. They reached the executive assistant's desk. "Delivery for Ethan Marks," Keanu said smoothly. The assistant blinked. Then blinked again. He's in a call, but..." "I'll wait," Keanu said, setting the box down gently. Malik stepped back, unsure what to do with his hands or his entire body. Keanu didn't ask for water. Didn't check his phone. He just waited. And Malik realized. He wasn't just helping. He was watching. Not just the people in suits. But him. Like he was worth waiting with. 10 minutes passed. Malik stood by the executive desk like a misplaced piece of furniture, unsure if he should breathe loudly. The assistant offered him water, awkward and overly polite now. Keanu stood beside him. Still relaxed. Malik glanced over. You didn't have to walk up with me. I know, Keanu said again. Malik fidgeted with the sleeve of his jacket. Rain had dried into cold patches on his arms. I'm not used to people noticing. Keanu didn't look at him, but his voice stayed calm. Sometimes it takes being seen by one person to remind you you were never invisible. Malik swallowed hard. Before he could reply, the assistant's phone buzzed. She picked it up, nodded, then gestured. Mr. Marks will see you now. They entered a corner office filled with warm light, framed awards, and a man in his 50s who looked like he was always mid-deal. Ethan Marks stood, distracted, shaking Malik's hand while looking at Keanu. Keanu Reeves? What the hell, are we doing a campaign together and I forgot? Keanu smiled politely. Nope, just delivering a box. Marks laughed, awkward, defensive. Keanu's tone didn't shift. Figured it'd get here faster this way. Marks gestured them in. Come on. Malik, right? Put it anywhere. Malik set the box down carefully, avoiding eye contact. Marks opened it and rifled through it carelessly. Finally, these samples were supposed to be here 3 hours ago. Malik froze. There was flooding downtown. Traffic. Marks waved a hand dismissively. It's fine. I'm just glad they're not broken. Keanu spoke then. They wouldn't be. He carried it like it mattered. Marks glanced over. Keanu continued. Some of your people downstairs treated him like the box was the most important thing he was delivering. Marks furrowed his brow. We've had issues with reception before. We'll look into it. Keanu nodded once. Do that. Then he turned to Malik. You done for the day? Malik nodded slowly. Good, Keanu said. Walk with me. They left the office. Back through the lobby. Past the receptionist, who suddenly found something very interesting on her screen. Past the coffee guys, who didn't make a sound this time. In the elevator, Malik stood quietly. I didn't expect today to go like this, he said. Keanu smiled. Neither did they. When the doors opened at ground level, Keanu paused. He held out a small, folded paper. Malik took it. Keep showing up. Even when they don't deserve your effort. Because one day, someone who does will notice. Malik tucked it into his jacket like a paycheck. Outside, the rain had stopped.
Malik didn't go home right away. He sat in his delivery van, engine off, fingers resting on the steering wheel, and stared at the crumpled note in his jacket pocket. It wasn't fancy, not embossed, not even folded perfectly, but it felt heavier than any package he delivered that day. He thought about the way they looked at him, the jokes, the waiting, the silence, and then the voice that cut through it all. He wasn't used to being defended or believed. He started the van and drove aimlessly for a while, past a river, through the warehouse district, finally parking near an old baseball field he used to hang out at in high school. The sun broke through gray clouds. For the first time in days, it felt warm. Malik pulled out his phone and scrolled to a note he hadn't opened in months. The one labeled resume draft. He'd started it over a year ago. Every time he thought about applying somewhere, his hands froze. Who would read it? Who cared? But now, something felt different. He didn't suddenly believe the world had changed. But maybe he had. He spent the next hour updating his experience. It wasn't glamorous logistics routes, part-time nights at a supply warehouse, but it was real. By the time the sky turned orange, he had a version he wasn't embarrassed to send. He hit save, and for the first time in a long time, Malik didn't feel like someone stuck. He felt like someone moving. The next morning, he returned to Premier Courier's hub at 6:45 a.m. His dispatcher, Julio, raised an eyebrow. You're early, Malik shrugged. Just trying to start clean. Julio handed him a tablet. Got a weird one today. Some office requested you by name. Malik frowned. Seriously? Julio nodded. Broxton and Levy. Someone upstairs said you were sharp and reliable. Malik blinked. Julio squinted. You sure you didn't save a CEO from a fire or something? Malik didn't answer, but a slow smile crept across his face. As he climbed into the van, he glanced once more at the note tucked into his dash. Keep showing up. It didn't promise anything, but it reminded him of something simple. Sometimes just being there, still standing, still trying, is the win no one claps for. Yet, the second time Malik entered Broxton and Levy, no one mocked him. Kara at the front desk sat up straighter. She didn't smile, but her voice lost its edge. Mr. Marks said to send you straight up. Malik nodded once. Thanks. She watched him a beat too long, as if she was trying to figure out how he'd gone from invisible to known in a matter of days. In the elevator, Malik held the next delivery. More product samples, same fragile label, but it felt lighter. Not because the weight had changed, but because he had. On the 5th floor, the same assistant greeted him. She smiled this time. You're early, she said, like it was a compliment. I'm learning not to be late. Marks wasn't in the office, so Malik set the box on the corner desk and turned to leave, but something made him pause. He looked back at the assistant. Hey, can I ask something? Sure. Who made the call to request me specifically? She tilted her head. I think it came from upstairs. I heard your name after someone mentioned an incident. Malik nodded, absorbing that. Whatever happened, she added, it made people pay attention. Later that afternoon, Malik sat in his van, organizing his route for the next day. His tablet buzzed with a new assignment. But what caught his attention wasn't the destination. It was a note attached. Please assign Malik, if available. Reliable. Pays attention to detail. Clients like him. His name. On paper. Connected to value. He leaned back in the seat, letting that land. At a nearby gas station, a younger driver, Andre, barely 20, knocked on his window while refueling. Yo, Malik. Word is you got some CEO's attention or something. Malik chuckled. Something like that. Andre shook his head. You gotta teach me how to move like that. People don't notice me unless I mess something up. Malik thought for a second, then reached into his glove box and pulled out a folded receipt. On the back, he wrote, don't wait for them to notice. Just be the reason they can't forget. He handed it to Andre. The kid blinked. What's this? Something someone gave me. Malik said, now it's yours. Andre smiled slowly. Bet. As the younger driver walked away, Malik sat quietly, watching the sun dip behind a billboard. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a message someone had finally read. And now, he was writing one of his own. The third time Malik walked into Broxton and Levy, it was different. Not because of who he was delivering to, but because this time Keanu wasn't there. He entered through the same double glass doors, past a receptionist who now offered a polite nod instead of silence. A few of the suits looked up, recognized him, and looked away, quickly, but one didn't. A younger exec, maybe mid-30s, tall and polished like a department store mannequin, intercepted him near the elevator. You the delivery guy? Malik held the package against his chest. Yeah, from Premier. The man scoffed. We've had issues with late arrivals. This one better not be another excuse wrapped in a label. Malik paused. I'm on time. Debatable, the man said, checking his watch even though the wall clock behind him confirmed otherwise. Malik looked at the man. Really looked. He remembered a time, not long ago, when this would have curled him inward, when he would have apologized, even without being wrong. Instead, he nodded once and said, I can leave the package here if it makes you feel more in control. The exec blinked. I just bring things, Malik added. How you carry yourself is yours to manage. Then he walked past him and into the elevator. The doors closed before the man could respond. Malik didn't tremble. He didn't even flinch. Upstairs, Ethan Marks greeted him with a wave. Perfect timing, as always. Malik placed the delivery gently on the side table and turned to leave, but Marks stopped him. You ever think about doing something beyond delivery? Malik raised an eyebrow. Like what? Marks hesitated, as if realizing he hadn't actually thought that far ahead. I don't know. You just handle pressure well. Malik gave a small shrug. Takes practice. Marks nodded, then reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a card. If you ever want to do logistics in-house, call that number. It's not a promise, but it's a door. Malik took the card, surprised, not because of the offer, but because for the first time, someone had handed him possibility instead of instructions. He rode the elevator down in silence, staring at the card. He didn't know if he'd call, but it meant something. Outside, it had started to rain again. Light steady, he zipped up his jacket. No hood this time. He didn't need to hide anymore. That night, Malik sat at his kitchen table, staring at two things: the business card from Marks and his updated resume. The apartment was quiet, just a low hum of his refrigerator and the occasional creak of pipes behind the wall. He hadn't told anyone yet. Not his sister. Not his boys in the group chat. Not even Julio at dispatch. Because saying it out loud would make it real. He'd never had choices before. Not like this. And the weirdest part? He didn't feel lucky. He felt ready. He set the card down gently and pulled out the folded note from his jacket. The one Keanu had given him weeks ago. The paper was worn now. The edges soft from being opened and closed too many times. He read it again. Keep showing up, even when they don't deserve your effort. Malik smiled, then flipped the card from Marks over and jotted a note on the back. Let them notice you when you're already gone. The next morning, Malik declined the Broxton delivery. Julio raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yeah, Malik said. Give it to Andre. He's ready. Julio didn't question it. Instead, he handed him a longer route, more packages, more ground cover, but less downtown drama. Malik took it without complaint. He didn't need another elevator ride. He needed motion. That day, Malik delivered to 6 addresses. At one, he helped an elderly man bring groceries up 3 flights of stairs. At another, he left a small sticky note on a package. Hey, you made it through today. That counts. No one told him to do it. But by now, that wasn't why he did anything. 2 days later, on a lunch break at a food truck, Malik stood in line scrolling through his phone. A guy behind him nudged him gently. Yo, are you the one who stood up to the execs at Broxton? Malik turned, surprised. Huh. The guy chuckled. Heard about it through a friend in corporate. Said some courier didn't flinch. Put a VP in his place. Malik blinked. I didn't put anyone in their place. You didn't need to. The guy said. You just didn't leave yours. Later that night, Malik got a message from Andre. It was a picture, a folded card tucked between a stack of office files with a sticky note. Malik was right. Showed up. Stayed calm. They remember my name this time. Underneath, Andre had written. Passing it forward, Malik smiled. He didn't reply. He didn't need to, because the message had already moved on. The courier hub on Friday mornings was chaos. Clipboards, coffee, missing scanner guns, half-eaten breakfast burritos balanced on dashboards. Malik had seen it all, but this morning felt different. Julio waved him down. You got a weird one. Malik approached. Julio pointed to a man standing off to the side of the loading dock, dressed in a long black coat, hoodie underneath, beanie pulled low. Malik's stomach did a strange little turn. Even before the man looked up, he knew. Keanu stood casually, hands in his pockets, like he was waiting for a bus and not reshaping the arc of someone's week. Morning, Keanu said. Malik tried not to laugh. You're kind of hard to miss. Keanu grinned. Not always. Julio, watching from the side, mouthed, Is that really him? Malik ignored it. What are you doing here? He asked. Keanu held up a folded piece of paper. I've got a delivery. Malik frowned. To me? Nope, Keanu said. From you. He handed Malik the paper. It wasn't new. It was the note he'd written on the back of Mark's card. Let them notice you when you're already gone. Keanu tapped the paper. That reached someone it wasn't meant to. Malik blinked. How? Keanu shrugged. Someone saw it on the desk. Took a picture. It circled through 3 inboxes and ended up on a screen at a community center. A young guy trying to figure out if he was worth applying for a second chance saw it, changed his mind. Malik didn't speak for a long second. Then it was just a thought. Those are the ones that stay, Keanu said. He paused. You've built something without realizing it. Quietly, brick by brick, word by word. Malik looked down at his boots. I was just trying not to shrink. Keanu smiled gently. And now others are standing taller because of it. He reached into his pocket and handed Malik a different slip of paper. Smaller, worn at the corners. When the weight shifts, don't forget who you were when you were still lifting alone. Malik held the note like it was a map. He looked up, but Keanu had already stepped away. One hand lifted in a parting gesture, then gone, just like before. But this time, Malik wasn't left with questions. He was left with a message. And now, it was his turn to deliver it. Malik didn't post about it. He didn't film anything. Didn't tweet some poetic thread with a photo of the note. He didn't even tell Julio the full story. He just did what he always did. Showed up, but something had shifted. Not in the way people saw him, but in how he carried himself. Like someone who didn't need the room to quiet down to know his voice mattered. Later that week, Premier Courier held a mandatory training session. Fluorescent lights, stale donuts. Half-attentive drivers slouched in metal folding chairs while a regional manager explained efficiency protocols no one would remember. Midway through, the floor opened for feedback. Silence. Then Malik raised his hand. Everyone turned. The manager, surprised but pleased, nodded. Malik stood. Not tall, just steady. I think sometimes we spend too much time trying to be invisible. Get in, get out, stay quiet. But we're part of what holds things together. We don't just move boxes. We carry trust. The room went still. The manager blinked. That's well said. Another driver murmured. Write that on a wall. Malik sat back down. No applause. No spotlight. Just quiet recognition. And that was enough. That weekend, Malik drove past Broxton and Levy without stopping. He didn't need anything from them. Not anymore. He parked at the community center 2 blocks away. Andre was there, now volunteering on Saturdays. He introduced Malik to a young kid named Jay who just started working night shifts at a warehouse while studying for his GED. Jay looked nervous, shoulders hunched, voice low. Malik listened, then reached into his glove box, pulled out a blank delivery tag, and wrote, Your name matters. Don't whisper it like it's an apology. He handed it to Jay. The kid read it once, then twice. Malik nodded. Hold on to that, for when it gets loud. Jay didn't respond, but he didn't let go of the note. That night, Malik went home and sat at his kitchen table. He pulled out a new notebook, one with no lines. Across the top of first page, he wrote, Things worth delivering. Then paused, and beneath it, added, Dignity, courage, one clean sentence at a time.
By the following month, Malik's name had started to circulate. Not like a celebrity, more like a code. Dispatchers at Premier began saying things like, Pull a Malik, when referring to deliveries done with patience and no complaints. Julio even added him to the training rotation, something rarely offered to active drivers. Malik didn't seek it, but he didn't run from it either. One afternoon, while training a new hire named Rosa, he walked her through the basic route planner, how to scan oversized packages, and which apartment complexes had nightmare elevators. She followed closely, quiet but focused. After their third drop-off, she hesitated before getting back in the van. Can I ask you something? Malik nodded. What changed? Like, why are people listening to you? He thought for a long second, then said, Because I stopped asking them to. She looked confused. He clarified. I started listening to myself first. That evening, Malik returned home to find a letter in his mailbox. Handwritten envelope. Inside, a short note. I found your note in a thread online. I don't know who you are, but it felt like it was for me. I finally applied for the apprenticeship. Just wanted to say, thanks. No return address. Just that. Malik folded it slowly and placed it inside the notebook, next to his growing list. Things worth delivering. Reminders. Quiet courage. The proof that showing up matters. He sat back and let the silence fill the space. For the first time, he wasn't trying to get through a season of life. He was living within one. On Saturday, Malik passed the familiar block where Broxton and Levy sat behind polished glass. He didn't stop, but he smiled, because he knew someone inside had remembered the man who once stood quietly beside a soaked box labeled fragile, and said nothing loud, but everything that needed saying. Sunday morning. Stillness. No deliveries. No deadlines. Just the rhythm of rain tapping against Malik's window like a slow drumbeat reminding him to rest. But he didn't sleep in. He got dressed, pulled on his hoodie, and walked 2 blocks to the small diner where the servers knew him by order: eggs over medium, wheat toast, black coffee. Today, something felt different. In a booth by the window sat a teenage girl, soaked hoodie, hands buried in her sleeves. A plastic food delivery bag sat in front of her, untouched. She looked like she didn't belong in any part of the world that cost more than $5. The waitress approached her once. Twice. Still no order. Malik watched. He remembered that stillness. That shrinking posture that came from pretending you weren't hungry enough to be embarrassed. When the girl finally stood, she mumbled something, too soft to hear, and started toward the door. The waitress looked annoyed. You could have just said you weren't gonna order. Malik stood. He walked to the register, pulled out his wallet, and handed the cashier a 20. Whatever she would have ordered, he said. Cover it. The cashier looked confused. You know her? Nope. He turned, walked past the girl just as she reached the exit, and quietly held the door open for her. She paused, stared, unsure what to do with the gesture. Then she nodded once, barely, and left. Malik didn't follow. He returned to his seat, ordered his usual, and wrote a single line on a napkin. Someone saw you today. Don't forget that. He folded the napkin and slid it under the edge of her untouched water glass. The waitress didn't say anything, but when she refilled his coffee, she set it down gently. That afternoon, Malik returned home and opened his notebook. He added a new item to the list. Visibility without permission. Then he flipped back to the first page and underlined the title. Not in pen, in ink, because it wasn't just a page anymore. It was a plan. 2 weeks later, a package arrived at Premier Courier. It wasn't addressed to anyone in particular. No return label. Just a single line written in black ink across the top of the box. For whoever needs to be reminded that they matter. Inside, 20 small notebooks. Plain covers. Blank pages. Each with a folded slip of paper tucked inside. The slips all read the same. Start with 1 sentence. The rest will follow. Julio didn't know what to do with them at first. But Malik did. He handed the first one to a new driver who just moved to the city. The second went to a warehouse loader who worked nights and slept in his car. A third he left anonymously on the break room table. They began to disappear, and sometimes come back, filled. Not with poetry. Not with goals. But with small truths. I showed up today. Didn't yell back. Told my son I was proud of him even though I've never heard it myself. The notebooks became a quiet movement inside a loud job. Not revolutionary. Just real. One rainy afternoon, as Malik was clocking out, Julio stopped him at the door. There's a guy asking for you at the loading dock. Malik walked around back. A young man, barely 20, stood there with a plastic bag over his backpack, shoes soaked. Hey, the kid said. Malik. Malik nodded. Yeah. The kid held out a small notebook. Someone gave me this. Said it started with you. Malik took it. It was worn. Creased. Pages filled with messy writing. I don't write, the kid added. Not really. But I kept going. Malik flipped through it, nodding slowly. You ever deliver before? He asked. The kid shook his head. No, but I'd like to try. Malik smiled. Come back tomorrow, he said. We'll see what you can carry. The kid turned to go, then paused. You really started all this just by standing up in an office? Malik chuckled softly. No, he said. I started it by not sitting down when it was easier. That night, Malik walked home in the rain. No hoodie. No hurry. Just a quiet man, carrying nothing visible, but delivering everything that mattered. Not all messages are loud. Some are delivered. In the rain. In silence. In the hands of someone who just keeps showing up. Malik didn't become famous. He became something better. He became the kind of person who proves that every day, kindness still gets delivered. Speech balloon comment if the story reminded you of someone. Loudspeaker share it with anyone who's ever felt invisible. Movie camera and subscribe. Because not all heroes are loud. Some carry clipboards.